Welcome to the Dynasty Sports Podcast. Special guest today, Trey Lance, quarterback at North Dakota State. Co-host Joey Blackmore as well. Trey, how are we doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you joining us. So how's the off-season workout plan going here? I know it's been kind of a wild ride for you so far.
Yeah, it's been really good. It's been an interesting year, definitely with everything going on, but it's good. Everyone's back on campus now. Starting, strength and conditioning workouts up with Coach Kramer again. So it's been really good now to be around the guys. Honestly, never thought I'd miss it that much. Was back home in Minnesota, feeling like I'm in high school again. Honestly, asking if I could go places and things like that. So, it was definitely different, but got to learn a lot. Got to talk to a lot of people, via Zoom or phone calls and stuff that I don't know I would have got to reach out to and have those conversations with. So definitely learned a lot. Found interesting ways to push ourselves, but definitely glad that we're back and going again.
When did you guys get back?
June 1st was the first voluntary date where we were able to use our facilities, but a lot of guys were working out like at Dynasty, at Cole's spot. In Fargo as soon as that stuff opened, just because, being from Minnesota and people from Wisconsin and those places where things didn't open up as quickly. Gyms are just starting to open now. It was nice to be able to come up and former players, allowing us to use their facilities too.
Yeah, right. I was glad to have you guys in there. It was a little different. You go from working with some high school kids to working with a guy like Dylan Radin. So like, this guy's an absolute monster in the gym. It felt good. It felt like I was part of the team to have you guys back in. So that was a lot of fun. But tell us about your hometown, where you're from, maybe a little bit of your high school backstory, sports you played, and how you kind of ended up at NDSU.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Marshall, Minnesota, small town in southwest Minnesota, about 15,000 people. There's a Division II school there, Southwest Minnesota State, Mustangs, if you ever heard of them. But yeah, born and raised in Marshall down there. Not a whole lot going on. I played basketball, football, baseball growing up. I stopped playing baseball my junior year of high school when I had an injury that year, and just decided to kind of focus on football and basketball. Committed to NDSU to play football pretty early. I'd say in the process, I was the first commit in my class. Committed pretty early in my junior year. Kind of just got to that point where I didn't really know what I was waiting for. I kind of knew what was the plan was for me, and was really confident in the coaching staff, and excited honestly to get up here to Fargo, and just knowing the program, the culture, the community, things like that. You guys know all about it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I just kind of got to that point, honestly, in high school where I was, didn't really know what I was waiting for anymore. So I was like, why not just jump right in? Kind of never look back from there.
Did you have, how was your recruiting process? Obviously, you committed pretty early, but that doesn't necessarily stop teams from continuing to recruit you. How was it and everything?
It was definitely – I didn't really know what to expect, honestly. It was a big difference, going into my sophomore year. Not knowing if I'd be able to even play college football, have that opportunity, and then kind of things picking up when I became the starter, and having, getting those opportunities. Most of the Valley, I'd offered most of the Valley, some Ivy League schools, most of the MAC, and then a few FBS schools, Air Force, Boise State late, and like I said, schools in the MAC as well. So this is very different. I didn't know what to expect going in. It was, my family's obviously first time going through things like that. But it was really cool. NDSU definitely stood out to me from the jump when I came to camp. Honestly, did not want to come to camp at all. That 3 day. It was just not.
It's a grind.
It's a grinder.
Yes. Everyone that's been through it knows. But definitely was worth it in the end. Didn't love it when I came, honestly, the first day on campus, but once I got to know the coaching staff and kind of the people and how things operate here, I fell in love with it.
You played both ways, right? In high school, you played strong safety.
Yep.
Were you recruited at all, by some of the bigger schools as potentially a defensive player? Your frame 6'3", 225 probably.
225, yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty perfect frame for an outside linebacker, Sam. Someone that can obviously run a little bit. Was that kind of what they were looking at you at, or was everyone looking at you as quarterback?
So Minnesota and Iowa were two schools that definitely that wanted me to play defense. Minnesota wanted me to play either safety or receiver because they had a quarterback commit in their class, and with the new staff change and everything like that, which was completely, understood. Absolutely. They had their guy and felt confident, and I totally understand that. And Iowa was a similar situation. Wanted me to play defense, and that was just kind of something that I wasn't interested in. So they wanted me to come play defense and gave me that opportunity, and I just kind of said that I was a quarterback, and I've always felt like I'm a quarterback, so that's kind of what I stuck with.
I grew up in Minnesota, so did Joey. Did you grow up a Gopher fan, hoping to play for the Gophers? I know through my recruiting process, I was hoping to wear the maroon and gold at some point, but just NDSU seemed like a better fit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was a diehard Gopher fan or anything, but it was really cool with the old staff, with Coach Clays and everything. I had two guys that played at my high school that I was kind of my best friends growing up that also played at Minnesota, so they both played football. So I think that was kind of more of the connection for me than growing up as a young kid. But yeah, I definitely had thought about it, and honestly, if the coaching staff didn't change, I don't know what would happen, but I'm definitely super, super thankful for where I'm at right now.
Yeah, so is Bison Nation, I think.
I think so.
What's in the water down there in Marshall, Minnesota? You said you got two people that played for the Gophers, you, and then we played with, Tyler Gimmestead at all?
Yeah, I know Gimme.
Yeah, Gimme, he's from Marshall. And then your brother's obviously got an NDSU offer and everything. And
yeah, I don't know what's happening, but it's going well. Football program, I think, just as a community, do a really good job of just looking out for kids and making kids, just teaching kids the right way. I think most of the kids out of Marshall, you'll know from Gimme, are competitive kids, hardworking kids. But it's that small town, there's not a whole lot else going on. But I think just the right kind of kids are coached the right way and just treat people the right way.
I love it. It's that Swan food you guys got down there. So coming from high school into college, obviously that playbook's gonna grow quite a bit. What are the biggest learning curves for you from that process? Obviously, you got a redshirt season to kind of grow with it a little bit. Talk about that first year at NDSU.
Yeah, I kind of knew going in. They had sent me just a few stuff, and you hear about it, and that college football is just a completely different game than high school football. In high school, you're bigger, faster, stronger than most of the guys you play against. It kind of makes things a little bit simpler mentally. But in college, it definitely picked up for me. I don't know. I didn't really honestly know what to expect. But Easton, I would say I give all the credit to Easton anytime that anyone asks me this question, just because of the amount of time that he spent with me. I was an 18-year-old kid coming in, probably the youngest kid in our class. And he's 23 years old, and he took extra time to answer my questions that's probably seemed like the dumbest questions. I know they questions ever to him. Having played for 5 years and won as many games as he did, but I just super thankful for him and everything he taught me, and his willingness to just really just take his time and really waste his time, and put it into me and help me learn. And even today, just being able to bounce ideas off of him, call him, whether it was during the season this past year, or during this time of quarantine, he's always been willing to help me out. But the learning curve was definitely a lot for me. I remember definitely that first summer and first fall camp being frustrated just because I felt like I couldn't really compete, because if you don't know it, you're doing the wrong thing. It doesn't matter how big, fast, strong you are, or what you can do. So it was frustrating for sure, but learned a lot from my mistakes. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that first season, you're redshirting, and I didn't follow it as closely as I was, coaching ball at Morehead State, but you end up dressing all 15 games. And are you technically the backup? Or I know you played in, I think, maybe 2 games. They have that new redshirt rule where you can play in 4 without losing it, which I think is an awesome rule. But, how was that? Were you on the scout team a ton, or were you up with the ones? How did that kind of process all play out?
So practice, I was on the scout team for fall camp. For those fall camp, the last few practices we started with Cal Poly that year. So funny enough, it was a triple option.
You were running.
I had to do, the triple option, the 4 football, pitch it to everyone. Everyone gets a football, let the defense make their fits. But once the season started, I was blessed enough to be able to work and follow Easton around. I didn't have to run scout team at all. So I was with the ones the whole time. Obviously didn't get as many reps as this year with Easton. But just being able to watch and learn everything, steal his notes, stuff like that, whether it was meetings or practice. The coaches did an awesome job. I'm super thankful that they set me up like that, whether it was my class schedule or whatever it was, to be able to sit with him and be at practices and be at every meeting and everything like that, just to kind of really just walk in his footsteps and be his shadow. But but yeah, it was really cool. Got to play in 2 games. Ended up, it was me and Holden and Noah were the 3 quarterbacks, and we all traveled. We all dressed for all the games. So we kind of took turns, honestly, with everything. They kind of gave me a heads up. My first game I played was North Alabama, and they kind of gave me a heads up because we had a bye week before that. Like you might get an opportunity. So, and I felt like as ready as I could have felt, 2 weeks into my true freshman year, 2 weeks into the season. But yeah, I felt enough that I knew enough I could go in there and handle it, and got that opportunity. It was really cool, obviously. First touchdown in the dome and everything. And then USD was kind of out of the blue, wasn't expecting to be thrown in there at all. And then, ended up going through the end of the season and kind of saved my games just in case something were to happen to Easton. But super thankful. Obviously, Easton handled everything, stayed healthy, so can't complain about 15-0 ever.
Yeah. And you said it, and it's interesting, you go 15-0, NDSU wins their 7th national championship in the last 8 years, D1. It was their 15th total. How was that transition when, Coach Kleiman ends up taking that job, and it's eerily similar to what happened with Cole and I our senior year. 15-0, we were national champs, and then in the playoff run, Coach Bull ends up accepting the job at Wyoming, and it becomes pretty clear that basically the whole staff was going with him. And, it wasn't quite as many people Coach Kleiman took with him to K-State, but it's still a good chunk. How was, your situation, and how was your experience with all that?
It was definitely unexpected. Honestly, going into the season, if you would have told me that by the end of the season, half of our coaching staff would have been gone, I don't know if I would have believed you or what I would have thought. But I thought just the administration handled it really well, just very transparent. I think that honestly was the biggest thing for me. They weren't hiding anything. They were completely upfront, and they said, Coach Kleiman sat us down before he accepted the job, and he said, I've been given this opportunity. I'm still talking about it with my family, but nothing's going to change as far as everything goes here. Guys were definitely frustrated, though. Like, I'm sure you can imagine, like you be recruited by the one staff, and then you're here for 1 year and they're out and you don't know what to expect, But my biggest thing was I just wanted to know who was leaving and who was staying. Obviously going into next year, there was a lot of unknowns as, I was just trying to get on the field. So there's definitely a lot going on. But I thought the seniors and just the leaders on the team that year did a great job of just keeping everyone focused on, the task at hand. Winning the next 2 games, I think it was right before the semifinal game when Coach Kleiman said that in the team meeting. But yeah, I think everything was handled really well, honestly, from their standpoint. Guys on the team, obviously, there's hard feelings and stuff, just because they the amount of love that they had for that coaching staff. But I think K-State has a ton of fans now.
Yeah,
oh, yeah, definitely.
It's nice that Coach Kleiman was able to tell you guys, and that's how you guys found out. Cole and we found out via Twitter
at Chubb's Pub.
Furman at Chubb's Pub and Packaging. And then the next morning we had like a team meeting with Gene Taylor, who was the athletic director, and kind of put it all into perspective. Like, hey, no, this is a real thing, because we all kind of didn't believe it. Yeah.
That was different times before social media was where it was at now, and it just kind of leaked out that night. That was a wild experience, that's for sure.
Yeah, it must have been, really nice though to have obviously your position coach stay, and Randy's done. I mean, his work right now is it's really the best in college football at the moment, from Carson to Easton to you. Just talk a little bit about Randy staying, obviously T-Roll stepping in as that OC spot. What was that like?
Oh, it was awesome. I was super thankful. That was the one thing. I mean, Coach Hedberg and Coach Roll, I think, were the 2 biggest pieces to us offensively this year, and obviously just as a team, as an offense, as a unit. Those 2 staying made a big difference. Just understanding the culture and us just being able to trust in Coach Roll as the OC, and just know that nothing's going to change as far as what we do here. And if Coach Roll, how passionate he is. So how much the love he has for us, and just remind us that nothing's going to change as far as everything goes. And then I think what they did with the new staff, having Coach Larson, Coach Blazik, and Coach Pauly come in, I think it's hard for the receivers. And I think honestly that was, if there was one position group that it was the hardest on, it would be receivers, because they've had guys have been here for 4 years and have had 4 different position coaches, which is crazy to think about. But I think Coach Pauly has done an absolutely incredible job, just embracing those guys. And obviously, you guys know the receiver room has definitely got some characters in it. Or when you played here. But I think he's done an absolutely incredible job just loving on those guys and coaching them all how they need to be coached. Every guy can't be yelled at. Every guy can't get chewed out. Guys just learn differently. I think Coach Pauly has just honestly understood that better than almost anyone I've ever seen.
Yeah, you mentioned T-Roll and his passion, and you weren't fortunate enough to be around the guy named Tim Polisak, but we were, and we always kind of joke he's a mini Tim. But how is Randy's coaching style and everything like that? Because he's from when I was there, I G8 after I played for two seasons, and him and Tyler were very much the opposite.
Yes. Absolutely. It's still the same way. I still think of it as Coach Hedberg is the guy that the coach that's going to be disappointed in you. Coach Nolan's gonna get on you a little bit more than that. But Coach Hedberg is much more coach in the meeting room, not as much on the field. We're gonna learn from it quickly on the field. Maybe a quick comment that's gonna really stick with you a little bit. But he's much more. We're gonna talk about it in the meeting room after practice or the following day. But I think he just does an excellent job of being that kind of that barrier between the coaches' meetings and the quarterback room and the offense as a whole. Whatever they talk about in meetings, I think Coach Hedberg does an awesome job of making sure that us as quarterbacks are on the same page as it, whether it's a breakdown of coverage that we see. He just does an awesome job of just making sure that we're all on the same page. And that's the biggest thing I think that I learned from Easton is that if everyone's doing the same thing and everyone knows what they're doing, whether it's right or wrong, we're going to be all right. But if guys are kind of all over the place with it and you're not comfortable with something and the coaches want you to do it, then we're going to have issues. But Coach Hedberg's been super understanding, especially me as my first year starting, helping me out, just making sure I'm comfortable with everything. And if I don't like something, then he didn't like it. So he was kind of on my side with everything, which was huge for me my first year.
Right.
What's it like taking over an offense, finally being the guy, being the leader when you're following the shoes of Easton Stick, who just gets drafted, and following the shoes of Carson Wentz, who gets drafted second overall? You're like, all right, this is some big shoes to fill. There's some pretty good quarterbacks that come through this place. What's the pressure like, day one of that off season kind of into that season?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know if it was a whole lot of pressure. I felt really good about the guys we had on our offense. Like I was just, in my mind, I'm thinking if I hand the ball to Ty Brooks 50 times a game, we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. If I throw the ball to Christian Watson, whoever it is, we have Ben Ellison. I could go down the list. One of the best offensive lines we've ever had. So just the amount of love and leadership that those guys honestly helped me have and the confidence that they gave me. The biggest thing for me was it was kind of weird being a freshman and being a leader. I was 18 years old and trying to lead guys that were 22 and had seemed like they had been for forever and just had it all figured out. Guys that are getting married and things like that. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, what I'm going to do for school, like all that. I'm trying to find my classes on camp, like all that stuff. Like it was different for sure. But those guys honestly just gave me all the confidence in the world, and the coaching staff as well, just reminding me that I got great players around me. So if I just do my job, I don't have to do too much. If I just do my job, we're going to be all right.
Yeah, it must have been nice too, from a standpoint, at least from what I know. You were competing for that spot. It wasn't like, all right, the season's over. Trey, you're the number one guy going into that spring ball. It was a true quarterback competition. And to go through that and then to win the job, it's like an automatic, okay, he earned this. So that must have been a nice transition. And how was it like competing that whole time, not really knowing what's going on? What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was different. With Zeb transferring in, not something that obviously we expected, but now honestly super thankful for it. And we're all super blessed that Zeb is here, and it made us all better. And Zeb helped me out this year probably just as much as anyone did. He was always had my back regardless, and honestly that's the first thing he said to me. They brought us in the room before practice the day they named the starter. They told us that they were naming me a starter, and the first thing that Zeb and Noah said to me was that they got my back, no matter ups and downs and through it all. So that meant a lot to me, honestly, more than anything any coach or any player could have said. I will say those next 2 days, those were probably my worst 2 practices of my career. I do clearly remember that. I couldn't, I was probably thinking, I just remember thinking like, coaches must think they just messed up, like they picked the wrong guy. Like it was just those next 2 days were not the best for me. But yeah, like I said, Zeb and Noah helped me out a ton this year. I don't know where I would have been without them. Just noticing little things and them yelling at me, pressures from the sideline, things like that. Those guys helped me out a ton.
Right. So you obviously you get named the starter, and then you had a pretty good season, to say the least. You end up being the first ever freshman to win the Walter Payton Award. For people that don't know, that's the best FCS player in the country. You also win the Jerry Rice Award, which is the best freshman in the country. I mean, the list really goes on. And I was looking at your stats for the first time because all I had really heard was, he didn't throw a pick. He didn't throw a pick. You know what I mean? But your stats are, they're remarkable. And when I saw it, number one question that came up was, how much of the offense, did you truly did they give you everything, or was it kind of, hey, let's build up to where we need to be so where you feel comfortable the whole time? Because NDSU's offense it's very difficult, and it's a lot, and just from the formations, the shift, the trade, the motion, checking at the line, did you kind of have free reign the whole time?
Yeah, I definitely would. I'd say like once we got to conference games, I was definitely more comfortable. It was just a lot better in my protections and everything like that. But from game 1 to game 16, yeah, it was all the same. I made the same run checks. Like game 1, my long run against Butler was a run check. It was a pressure check. But all the way to game 16, I did the same protections, same pressure checks, everything like that. So yeah, it was, like I said, I give all the credit in the world to Easton and Coach Hedberg and Coach Roll to making, challenging me in practice. And I think that's where I learned the most is I take as many reps as I can in practice. With Coach Blazik, the new O-line coach, Tuesdays is like our big pressure day. So pressures, he's throwing everything at us. So it's probably the most frustrating day for me because you make a ton of mistakes. But it's just one of those things where if I throw a pick on this in practice, I'm not going to make that same mistake in the game. So I just take as many reps as I can. And like I said, all the credit in the world to Easton, just still being able to – if I had a bad practice, he was the first person I was calling after practice. I was going straight to the film room on FaceTime with him, and I was setting him up on my phone, and we were going to talk through stuff until he got hung up on me.
Coach Paulsek used to call it Bloody Tuesday. That's what he used to always say. I don't know if they still use that term or not, but he used to always say, Bloody Tuesday, we're going to make these kids miserable today. Screw them up. What's your process like? You finish a game on Saturday. Take us through kind of what you do, Sunday. Obviously, you're probably reviewing the game more so than anything. And then when are you transitioning into looking ahead to the next week's opponent? What are you, what's your mindset like? What are you trying to attack? Obviously, you're looking at coverages. Are you talking with Coach Hedberg, hey, against cover 3, this is what I like. Against cover 2, I think we can get some flat curl concept going. Their outside linebacker. He cheats out on that flat and we can hit it right behind them. What's kind of your mindset? Just take us through a week.
Yeah, so Saturday nights, obviously depending on home or away game, for most of the time for home games, I try to watch the games. I do watch the game on Saturday night, rewatch it, and then Sunday mornings I'll watch it again and take notes on it, pretty detailed notes, especially if it's a conference opponent that we could see again in the playoffs or anyone really that we could see again in the playoffs. Just so I have it when it's fresh in my mind, I like to just do that. And Easton is, again, the person that I learned all this from. And Sunday also, obviously, treatment. And then watching a few games. I probably watched the last 3-4 games from them, taking notes on them. And then Monday's a big formation day. So we go through all the formations, all the formation cut-ups and watch them. Tuesdays is pressures. So Tuesday morning we watch all the pressures, 4-man, 5-man, 6-man, 7-man pressures. And then also start with third downs as well. And this whole time, so we'll watch film in the morning, then meetings obviously in the afternoon before practice. So I'll go up usually with the staff and try to sit in as much as I can when I'm not meeting, obviously, or in class. Taking online classes definitely helps time-wise with all this during the season. But they do a great job, like I said, of making sure I'm comfortable with everything. So Coach Heber will come down a few times or, whoever the quality control coach is, or Coach Roll every once in a while and sit in and just talk through some stuff that he sees, make sure we're on the same page with everything. And then, like I said, yeah, so it's our third downs on Tuesday. That's our big pressure practice. And Wednesdays are big, we do third downs and red zone. And then So I watch Red Zone again in the morning, and then Thursdays is kind of cleaning everything up, and Fridays I run a O-skill meeting with tight ends, running backs, receivers, and fullbacks on Friday mornings, and then kind of get ready to go from there.
What specifically do you look for, from a coverage standpoint? When you're going in and you're breaking down film, are you looking at safeties first, or what's kind of the process there?
In my brain, I learned from first level back. So I start that's just how I work. Like if I'm coming up to line of scrimmage, that's just the way I work in my brain. And again, we got that from Easton and Carson and just talking to those guys, but take care of first level first, and then work back from there. Boundary safety is like my big key, and our big key. It's kind of what Coach Hedberg teaches, and it works really well, obviously. But yeah, boundary safety is our big key, pre-snap, post-snap, wherever you're going to work. And then obviously linebacker structure, things like that. Just getting so comfortable with it to the point where you're just as confident as you possibly can be. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, just being prepared to the point where I know I've done everything I can to be prepared for this game, so there's nothing really to be nervous about. Like there's no pressure. If I feel pressure, then that means I didn't do enough during the week. So honestly, I felt the same confidence, I guess you could say, going into week 1 against Bully that I did week 16 against JMU. And I don't think I was the same player. I think I definitely grew a lot, learned a lot. But I think just like mentally, I think I felt like I did everything I possibly could have going into that week as I did, the national championship.
Right. What, talk about the season. As impressive of a season anyone's ever had. I think no one's been 16-0 in all of college football since like 1890 or something crazy like that. Obviously there was a ton of pressure just from, like Cole mentioned earlier. Carson filled Brock's shoes, and then Easton filled Carson's shoes, and now you're essentially filling, the past 3 quarterbacks' shoes and trying to carry on that tradition. And you do it, better than anyone's probably ever done it. And what was it like, as the momentum was going? Really, you only had 2 close games. Obviously, the South Dakota State game, that 4th and 1 call, and then the James Madison game came down to Jimmy Football getting a pick in the end zone to seal it and ending his career the way it should have been ended. How was this that ride?
It was a blur, honestly. It was a blur. It flew by. My mindset going into the season was definitely not anything about individual anything. I wanted to win games, and I was like, talking to Easton, honestly, going into that year, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to find a way to get us to win games. It might be ugly, it might be whatever it is, and I'm going to find a way to get us wins. So I don't know. Yeah, it was a blur. It went by super fast from non-conference to conference games through the playoffs. Not a whole lot. I remember from it outside of the games, week to week. But I definitely just learned a ton. Just remember making a ton of mistakes, and that's the way I learned best, honestly.
Right. You got it, Cole.
Yeah, talk about that championship game, losing those seniors. Now you're transitioning into that off season. Obviously, getting your body right, getting your body healthy is kind of that next big step. But not having spring ball this year. Would you guys get one practice in or something like that? What are you guys going to do or what would you guys kind of do to make up for not getting those reps in for guys? I know you have a ton of guys back, and obviously a great offensive line coming back. But talk about the loss of the spring ball.
Yeah, it was frustrating, disappointing, all that. It would have been definitely a very different dynamic. I think I would have been able to learn a lot, and rather than us competing against each other. Obviously, like last spring was, just being able to learn and kind of look out for each other and really just teach each other and push each other rather than kind of competing. It would have been a very different dynamic. So I was really excited for the spring. Obviously, I wasn't able to practice the first practice, still getting healthy. But it was frustrating not having it. But definitely a lot of Zoom meetings, which is not ideal. I'm a right on the board type of guy, put up and show guy. So it was a little frustrating. So like I said, it's very good feeling to be back now, being able to sit in with the young guys and receivers and things like that, and just talk through what I'm seeing. Because just Zoom is just not the same, as you guys know. It's just not being able to be there and make sure everyone's paying attention and attentive and taking notes, things like that. But learned a lot, like I said, being able to work with Easton longer than I would have been able to, and just being able to have a lot of conversations with football, great football minds across the country, that I don't think I would have without the whole quarantine.
What was the schedule like? obviously spring ball gets canceled. You guys are kind of like, we don't really know when we're coming back. I mean, how much were you allowed to meet?
I don't know honestly what the limit was. For quarterbacks, I think we met 3 times a week, and then with the coaching staff or with Coach Hedberg, and then I held a couple meetings a week as well. So I mean, it was everyone had free time, so there wasn't really any excuse to not be there. But we did plenty, especially when we were in spring ball, and then kind of led up, I would say, towards the end of the semester, finals week around, and then guys started coming up here so I could meet with guys, a little bit more face to face, whether it was just in my kitchen on my laptop or whatever it was up here in Fargo with whoever was up here. But yeah, I don't know what the limit was, honestly. I know the NCAA had a ton of rules that our coaching staff had to follow, which got frustrating at times. But no, I think our coaching staff did a great job of maximizing our time and not just, having us sit on staring at our computers just to say that we were meeting. I think we really got something out of it every time we met.
What did you guys meet about? Was it just, hey, we're going to go through day 1 install, like we would have been doing, and then day 2, then day 3, or was it a little bit different? Were you guys focused on maybe some self-scout more than you probably would have been able to do during a regular spring ball?
Yeah, we definitely did a lot of self-scout. I did it, obviously during winter workouts that whole time, just because it was me, watching myself and things I need to do. We went through all the cut-ups, all that stuff. And then obviously install is just something that you just got to do, even if it's not the most exciting thing. But yeah, we got through it. And then watched a ton of NFL tape, watched a ton of like the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Saints were the 3 that I focus on the most, just as far as quarterback play. But yeah, watched it. Like I said, ton of NFL tape, ton of cut-ups, and then helping the young guys along. The incoming freshman, his name is Cam Miller, helps him along, helped him out a lot. Obviously, the NCAA rules prohibited Coach Hedberg from meeting with him a lot, so most of the time it was just kind of captain's meetings without him. But yeah, we watched a lot of interesting stuff, found a lot of interesting videos, stuff like that. We broke down a lot of games. Just had us do it just to make sure we were all on the same page as far as how we see the game and everything like that. So it was cool to see kind of the differences, the different ways people think, especially in our room. But yeah, learned a lot.
Did you guys?
You go, Joe. You go.
I was just gonna say, did you guys? I would have imagined if you had a spring ball. Cole, I don't know if you know this, but there's a pretty big game, game 1 next season.
Bring up.
I think it's the number 5 team in the country or something like that. And if you guys would have had a spring ball, I'd imagine you would have spent at least a couple days, with some sort of a game plan. I know we did that during spring ball, like before we played the Gophers or before we played Kansas State. Like, hey, we're gonna have this in the game plan that we haven't had in before. Did you guys do any of that stuff, do any Oregon stuff, or did you guys just kind of put that on the back burner?
Oh, we did a lot. I think it was less with the coaching staff as far as, it wasn't Coach Hedberg and all the quarterbacks didn't really have the young guys as involved. But like me and Zeb, we did a lot of Oregon breakdown, and we kind of, be on Zoom like this, or we'd be on FaceTime on my phone and have the tape set up here, and we'd be sending each other clips all day long. So it was kind of that type of deal. Definitely different, but learned a lot for sure, and definitely it was good for us, I think, to watch separately and kind of see what we both see from our own point of view, rather than us kind of putting everything together, putting our minds together. So it was interesting. We learned a lot, but now we're back at it. We've definitely gotten into it a little bit, added some wrinkles, just a lot of improvements. I think just my opinions on things, and as an offense, our opinions on things, if the receivers like a route a certain way. I think after getting through this first year and learning a lot, just doing it how we have been, I think being able to add some wrinkles is going to be really good for us next year.
Right.
Besides the athletes that Oregon's got on defense, they got a defensive end that you've probably never seen before in the Valley and whatnot. What makes their defense challenging? I know they're a very good team last year, top 5 team, Rose Bowl champs, with a lot of those players back. What's challenging about this defense?
Yeah, really, really talented. Returned all 4 guys in the secondary. Their nickel Sam is also really talented. Obviously, anytime you play Oregon or a team in the Pac-12, you're going to see some speed. So really talented guys. I'm honestly super excited for that opportunity. It's going to be really cool. Just praying we get that opportunity still with everything going on in the world right now. But yeah, super excited. They're like I said, very talented team. They do a lot of things defensively. I think they're really, really well coached. You don't see a whole lot of busted coverages at all, and if they do, they can make up for it with their speed a lot of the time. So it'll be super exciting and a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the goal is to win the Missouri Valley and make the playoffs, right? But, I mean, this is, in my opinion, the biggest game in the history of NDSU, you know, just from a pride standpoint and everything like that. Plus, I mean, the Chargers just drafted their quarterback, and, you know, Easton's there, and I'm sure they're going to have some sort of a wager. At least I hope they do. You know, what does this game mean? I mean, I would imagine you guys are pretty fired up, chomping at the bit. You know, no matter how many championships NDSU is going to win, they're still going to be overlooked, and you guys are still going to have that chip on your shoulder. But I think that's a good thing. How are you guys approaching it all?
I think you guys are doing a good job. We're obviously really excited for it. You guys have been through it, you know, playing in big-time games and preparing for those games at the beginning of the year. But at the same time, you know, you guys know it's got to be just another game. You know, obviously it's going to be probably one of the most talented teams, if not the most talented team that we play in college. But at the same time, you know, you got to take it as just another game. You know, it's not an end-all, be-all situation. It's not the end of the year. But definitely we're excited to compete and kind of show everyone what we've got.
Right. I remember Coach Kleiman when we were playing Kansas State. He was my position coach at the time, and the defensive coordinator. But he had shared a story with Northern Iowa. It was the most talented team he had been a part of while he was there, and they played Iowa. And it was, you know, all the marbles in their mind. And it was early in the season, and they ended up losing like a heartbreaker. Like, I think they kicked a field goal to win it or something. And he said it just ruined their whole season, like, because everyone had the chip stacked so high. And just hearing you know, the way you have talked about approaching this game, I think it's a great mindset to have. Like, obviously you're going to be fired up because it's a game. It's an opportunity to go 1-0, but that's really all it is to you guys, you know, and I think that's a good thing. How have you guys been handling now that you guys are back? What's kind of your guys' strength schedule? Are you working out 4 days a week, running 2 times with some 7-on-7, or how's that going?
Yep. So we just opened, like I said, 2 weeks ago. I just started conditioning this week. Will be our first week conditioning. So we're running, I think, 3 days a week this week, and then we'll get to 4 next week. But lifting 4 days a week, obviously it's different. Smaller lift groups, everyone's spread out, social distancing, you know, disinfecting everything, anything and everything you can. You know, hand sanitizer everywhere, temperature getting checked, symptoms, all that. Guys getting tested for coronavirus and everything. So it's a lot going on. But at the same time, I think Coach Kramer and his strength staff and Coach Pert, you know, all those guys are doing a great job of just getting guys locked in. You know, once we're in there to lift, we're in there to lift. And guys aren't really thinking about it or worrying about it a whole lot. Obviously being smart with everything, you know, on and off the field when you're in and out of facilities. But it's definitely good, like I said, to have guys back. It's captain's practice will start up last week in June, which would be good to get guys back. But offensively, we've been throwing. I know the defensive guys get all their work in too. So it's just really good to have all the guys back around and you know, kind of see where everyone's at as far as physically and mentally, how much they've been doing. And I think we're kind of ahead of the curve, I'd say, as far as just how guys have been taking care of their bodies when they were back home.
Right. Yeah, Trey, so I don't know if you're aware of this, but Mel Kiper, you know, released his draft and you're the 3rd overall quarterback. You know, and I work for a company called Pro Football Focus, and you know, they ranked you as the 3rd guy too. And, you know, we break down every game and every play, and it's pretty detailed stuff. How, you know, for one, I mean, were you pretty surprised at that, or was that something that you kind of knew was coming? You know, someone who doesn't follow it as closely, I remember seeing that, and I was like, wow. You know, what was kind of your thought process with all that going on, and has anything changed as far as, you know, media attention and all that stuff?
It's definitely been more, obviously, on social media. I think with everything going on now, notifications have definitely been turned off. I think right after the season probably happened. But yeah, just honestly, the way I've been looking at it is that it's all hypothetical. You know, if I don't play well, none of it really matters. So I guess I don't pay that much attention to it. I have a lot of conversations with Easton and Carson and Brock about it, which helps a ton. Just have those guys to lean on and ask questions too. Just because I know they've all been through it. You know, they're all kind of living, you know, what every college football player wants to do right now. But yeah, like I said, really think of it as pressure or anything like that. I'm just going to continue to play football and 100% focus on, winning the national championship at North Dakota State.
Was it something you expected?
No, definitely not. Like like I said, my sophomore year of high school, I didn't even know if I'd be able to play college football. I didn't know if I was good enough to play college football. So it's definitely wasn't something I was anticipating. Like I said, I just wanted to win games this year. So I'm going to continue to do everything I can to just win games for my team.
Right. Taking it back a little bit, back to winning the Walter Payton Award. Obviously, I think Easton got absolutely snubbed the year before from that award. Talk about being finally the first quarterback to get that award and what that meant to you and to the team.
It was really cool. Obviously, that banquet's the night before the national championship. Excuse me. My parents went to it, but I didn't. We had, Friday night meetings and everything like that, and I just wasn't going to let that be a distraction for any of the guys on the team I didn't want anyone thinking about it, honestly. And I knew I roomed with Zeb, and his family was up there, and my family was at the banquet. So I was honestly trying to go to bed. I had my phone off. I was like, let's not think about it. I don't want to know. I don't want to, I just didn't want it to affect me at all. And then I didn't even know about it, but the coaches were knocking on my door, and Coach Anson's wife and her kids were knocking on the door, and the guys were all coming in the room and everything. So it was cool. They're all really excited. I'm trying to just be like, let's not worry about it. It doesn't matter. Let's, you know what I mean? Just not think about it. It's kind of irrelevant if we don't win tomorrow. So yeah, like I said, I told all the guys that were, you get plenty of hard time. I'm sure you guys know all about it. You're giving guys a hard time about all that stuff. But I think, the guys were super excited. So I was super excited, obviously. It was a huge honor for me, and just a huge testament to my team. Honestly, my guys making me look really, really good this year, whether it's the offensive line, running backs, anyone on our offense and our defense, bailing us out of some big-time games. But, yeah, all the credit in the world to those guys and the coaches for putting me in great positions to look really good and be successful.
Yeah, I mean, you made a few plays yourself during that stretch to win that award as well.
Right. Transitioning in a little bit from football, I know I saw on social media you were at the protest in Fargo, and it seemed like, from my perspective, being in Florida, it was an awesome experience, at least from your standpoint and everything like that. Just talk about what it was like there and your experience with everything that's been going on and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was really cool. I was super encouraged, honestly, and impressed by Fargo in this community to see that many people. It's not something that I expected, honestly, from our community, just having that many people out there. But it was really cool doing the March of the Day with a few of my teammates and friends that aren't on the team as well. And just there being thousands of people out there that were just so passionate about something that, everyone should be passionate about in my mind. But it was really cool to see, like I said, in Fargo, just this huge blessing that I live in this community. I think it was a big reminder for me that how blessed I am to live here and have these people support me on and off the field.
Right. Yeah, I know Cole and I graduated with Marcus Williams, and he's in the Twin Cities, and I had a chance to talk with him a little bit about everything, and what's just your thoughts on just everything that's been going on? It's obviously a crazy time for everybody, and Marcus being kind of in the heart of it all. His perspective is probably a little bit different than yours, but were you there with a bunch of your teammates, or how did that all work?
At the March, yeah, it was me and a few guys that also weren't on the team. Yeah, it was really cool to see a few just people I know from NDSU that just go to school that I honestly wouldn't have expected to be there. But I guess with everything going on in the world, I think it's opening a lot of eyes to a lot of people that honestly would have no idea that it's or even a real thing. You hear about it and you see it in the news every once in a while. You're like, it must have been a fluke or something bad must have happened. Something must have happened. But I think it's really just truly opening a bunch of eyes to see that it's real stuff. And it's stuff that people go through every single day. And I think just the biggest thing is just people learning so much more about it, like seeing on social media and just realizing, like I said, people realizing that it's real. And it's stuff that people go through every single day that most people don't even know that, is a thing, it wouldn't cross your mind. But I I guess my family just being from a predominantly white area, not living in Fargo even. My dad is black, my mom is white. So having to have those conversations with my parents about like, almost all my friends from back home are white. So it's a predominantly white area. So it's definitely a different and hard for my mom, honestly, to learn the stuff that my dad went through, for example, and just seeing people like look at you differently because the color of your skin is just it kind of is crazy. A lot of people don't think that it's real or realize that it's real, but I think this is really good thing. Obviously everything that's gone on, maybe not be, might not be, but everything that people are learning and opening their eyes to and realizing that it's real. My mom having to have conversations about me to, when you get pulled over, you keep your hands on the steering wheel no matter what, like things like that. With a 12-year-old kid is probably not something that she ever thought she would have to do. And that a lot of people have no idea about, just the difference between me, I think, just growing up where I grew up and my friends, like I had very different experiences, noticed different things that they honestly had no idea about, and even up here. But obviously, like I said, the Fargo community is amazing. There are people that have their own views, and you have to respect that. But I think it's a really good thing that people are realizing this and opening their eyes to it.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to, about 2 or 3 years ago now, I was, at Billy's place back in Mounds View, or he lives in Shoreview. And his dad, Maurice, there was like something happened with the Gopher football team. And I don't really remember what it was, but it was something to do with, a racism deal. And Billy's dad, I literally sat there and I was like astonished because he's a very stoic person for one. He's not as tall as Billy, but he carries that hammer when he talks, if that makes sense. And just listening to what he was talking about, and this was obviously 3 years ago, way before any of these riots or anything or the protests were happening. It was very eye-opening, to say the least. One thing that I personally have found frustrating just from a social media standpoint, and I just want to get your take on it, is you see all this like rioting and looting and all this stuff. And then I look at my Snapchat and I see Zach Colvin, Marcus Williams, Billy Turner, and it's all peaceful. You're looking at thousands and thousands of people. And then like the media is kind of making it seem like, it's a riot, everyone's looting and stealing everything. It's gotta be, it's frustrating for me. I can't imagine, what are your thoughts on that whole deal? They're just trying to paint a poor picture, to me, it seems.
Yeah, I think it's probably not the first time that try to paint a negative, change something positive into a negative to make it look a certain type of way. I don't really know honestly what to say about it. I think that just the senseless killings and murders and everything has gone on obviously way too long. And the fact that it's still a real thing and people don't see it. There's millions of people out there that don't believe that it's real or whatever. Whatever. It's crazy to me that it's still a thing and it's scary. Just thinking about not even me, but my family members, my cousins, my brother, things like that. It's just a terrible thing to think about. It's scary, terrifying, whatever you want to say. But yeah, I think that everything that's going on with the riots and everything, obviously it's scary and we wish, pray for safety for everyone. But at the same time, I think there's two sides to it. And I don't want to say that I'm with agreeing with destroying buildings and things like that. But at the same time, I think that a lot of people see it as this is kind of like we need to be heard. And that's the only way, because peaceful protests has just not worked in the past. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, kind of the way I've seen it and heard it from a lot of people that are in those positions. And, like I said, I'm not saying that's right or wrong at all, but I think that people need to be heard and things need to change, obviously.
Yeah, it's obviously, whether it's right or wrong, it's a cry for help, right? If people can't see that at least, then, that's obviously the bigger issue. The last thing that I have, and Cole, I'm sure if you have something else, we'll let you get going because obviously you're a busy guy, is it's a little lighthearted, but does Kramer have a med ball with Oregon colors?
He does not. I learned about the pink ones. I didn't know. When I came in, I had no idea about the pink ones. That it was from that. And someone told me, I think last year, I just learned about it. But there's not. But I'm sure there'll be something coming. With everything, we weren't here all spring. So I'm sure he was scheming something up. But He's been fired up. You know, Coach Kramer, with everyone back up here, he's been fired up, especially with all the rules, extra rules he's got to follow and all that. He's wired. He's ready to go.
Love it. Last question for you. Kind of how we've kind of finished it with the last two guys. What does Bison pride mean to you? You know, it means something different to every Bison player that comes through. But what give us your take on Bison pride.
The biggest thing for me, I think the biggest display of it that I have in my experience was Zeb and Noah. Like I said, that first day that I got named the starter, you know, Zeb didn't transfer here from Iowa State to help me out. You know, he wanted to play. Noah didn't come here to not play. And I think just them realizing that it's bigger than football, and them helping me realize that, you know, if I have a bad day, it's bigger than that, and it's about the relationships we build. And I think this Fargo community is a great way to explain it, and obviously the culture we have here. But the biggest, like I said, the biggest display of it for me is I'll never forget the moment when they said, "I got your back." You know, no matter what happens, you throw 10 picks in a game, you lose all 15 or 12 games, whatever it is. They said they're gonna have my back through it, and that meant the most to me, and that's something I'll definitely never forget.
That's awesome. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, Trey. You have a good one. Have a good off season. Good luck at Oregon this year. Hopefully, Bison Nation can show up there. They have fans and everything, and I think we're ready for football season to get back to a little bit of normalcy from this COVID deal.
Absolutely, I'm with you. Thank you guys so much for having me.